YouTube really seems to have a pattern of going out of their way to do things in the most obtuse and harmful way possible. They removed the dislikes and dared to say this was for the sake of creators' mental health, even though creators always had the option to remove their dislike counter if they chose to. This really only appeased the big corporations, including YouTube, who frequently got dislike bombed. YouTube also effectively deleted millions of unlisted videos a couple years ago. No one talked about it, but it's surely one of the worst things they ever did. Countless historical, educational, and sentimental videos just gone like that. Since it applied to any unlisted video before 2017, classic Brony videos were heavily affected. Any one of YouTube's blatant attacks on its own users is deserving of a rant video, but today I want to talk about one of the most harmful things they've done to the community I personally call home. This very much applies to any cartoon or any animation community, but I've been a Brony for over a decade and I've used YouTube since 2007. I have never seen anything quite as frustrating and quite as dumb as what we're about to dive into. First, some quick backstory. In 2019, YouTube was fined $170 million for breaking children's privacy laws. The Children's Online Privacy Act, or COPPA, took effect in 2000. Yeah, just 2000. Some of you watching this video probably weren't even alive then, so it's not even something recent. Anyway, I'm no lawyer, but it basically requires website operators to have explicit parental permission before knowingly collecting information from children. To put it in perspective for other people my own age, it's the whole reason you needed a fake parent's email to sign up for Club Penguin. Yeah, that's COPPA. Ingrained in YouTube culture is the running joke that the website is dominated by children. Popular YouTubers will jokingly accuse each other of having their subscriber counts inflated by children.
All my comments, just a bunch of kids.
Many of the most viewed videos on all of YouTube, including #1, are for babies. So everyone knows children are all over YouTube, and everyone knows YouTube is owned by Google, who loves collecting data on their users. It's especially inevitable when you had YouTube knowingly promoting and encouraging kid-focused channels, such as our very own Hasbro, who shows up in these court documents too. So the FTC fined YouTube and ordered them to stop collecting personal information from children. YouTube responded by forcing every uploader to mark every new video. YouTube also rolled out a robot to automatically mark videos if they're for kids. In theory, this wasn't actually a big deal at the time. Creators were mildly inconvenienced to have to mark every video, but this seemed like the best solution they could have rolled out in such a short amount of time. By marking videos, fewer kids are illegally tracked by the almighty Google, and creators retain full control and liability of their own videos. But it was after YouTube started to take away that control and started forcing the classification upon people that the first of multiple controversies began. Like an alcoholic parent taking frustrations out on their kids, YouTube threw their own childish tantrum about being fined and took it out on us. Due to YouTube's infamously poor communication and authoritarian implementation of new policies, panic ensued. Many people probably know this, but YouTube is run by robots. This doesn't have to be a bad thing, especially considering YouTube's scale and the impossibility of having a competent human look at everything uploaded every second. That's simply not possible. But the use of robots does cause a few familiar patterns to emerge. When YouTube rolls out a new robot like this, it really is just random at first. As more and more videos are flagged by the robot and creators appeal the robot's decisions, human reviewers manually and slowly train the robot by approving or denying the robot's decisions. Over time, the robot learns from this human input and the humans are needed less and less. This is nothing new, and you can see a similar pattern anytime YouTube introduces a new policy which involves review. But there's more. Because of the lack of clear communication from YouTube, and YouTube's own desire not to clarify the FTC's already unclear definitions, countless channels were either marked incorrectly without appeal, or were self-applied out of abundance of caution. There was a very viral video going around where someone at the FTC was talking about fining creators and shooting us like fish in a barrel.
Bringing independent piecemeal actions against content creators for violating COPPA, the expression about shooting fish in a barrel. And YouTube is the barrel, and the content creators are the fish.
The video was usually shared without important context, and it obviously caused a lot of panic.
This would maybe incentivize content creators to misidentify programming to ensure that they continue to receive revenue from behavioral advertising.
The hysteria led people to think a bunch of individuals were going to be fined by the FTC, but this is simply not true. This misinformation, combined with the lack of clarification from YouTube, led plenty of people to mark their own videos as made for kids, even if that wasn't the case. Lots of organizations like small news outlets, churches, and local community groups still to this day label all of their videos as made for kids, either because they don't understand the label and think it simply means kid-friendly, or because they think it's better to be safe than sorry when it comes to the FTC. Not only did this probably train the robot incorrectly, but this also caused some of the more scandalous and viral issues which you may have seen. Videos of violence, both real-life footage and animation of blood and gore, were being marked as for kids. This was either due to the confusion of uploaders marking it incorrectly, or YouTube's own aggressive stance against animation being enjoyed by adults. Believe it or not, YouTube doesn't see false made-for-kids classifications as a problem. Videos marked made for kids and videos which actually appear on YouTube Kids are two entirely separate categories, contrary to popular belief. However, that's an unfair technicality which avoids addressing the problem in the first place. Typical YouTube there. This separation of kid categories not only hurts creators looking to reach a normal adult audience, but it also means there are two different YouTube Kids sections. One is a tightly controlled app carefully controlled by YouTube, and the other is a blatantly inaccurate suggestion feed full of wrongly marked videos. Only one of those two aren't carefully curated by YouTube. So which of those two do you think unsupervised kids are going to prefer? YouTube found a way to comply with the FTC's legal demands and make the whole situation far worse than it was before. Knowing YouTube, it was probably unintentional. Their incompetence transcends the mortal realm. I truly believe YouTube's decisions were just to spite the FTC and to make us all upset enough to complain to the FTC. Don't fall for their trick. The FTC was right to look into this matter, and YouTube alone is responsible for the implementation of fake solutions to a real problem. So obviously this solution isn't helping kids and may actually be harming them. But speaking of harm, do creators really get hurt by all of this? Videos marked made for kids inherently earn less money because the whole point is not using tracking data to serve targeted ads. This further proves YouTube's utter incompetence when it comes to wrongly marking videos. Because guess what? YouTube also gets less money from these videos. If we look past Hanlon's razor for a moment, it's possible YouTube has done the math and figured this loss of money is less than the loss incurred by some of the better, less evil solutions. But I'll get to those in a bit. Another outcome of YouTube's poor communication and poor decisions is that animators are not only forced to interpret the unclear rules, but also find ways to avoid getting into trouble without knowing what actually does and doesn't work. Again, classic YouTube and their utter lack of communication or transparency. There has been an explosion of inappropriate pony videos because animators are justifiably trying to avoid the blacklist by incorporating mature content.
Hello. I just wanted to say that this video is not appropriate for kids.
A few swear words here, some animated violence there, and maybe they'll be lucky enough to avoid the blacklist, right? Unfortunately, no. YouTube has separate unwritten rules for mature content and animation. I had a showcase video get demonetized for one F-bomb because it also included animated characters. One F-bomb late in the video. Remember all that YouTuber drama about YouTube being too strict for demonetizing strong language? Well, when it comes to animation, things get far more absurd. This unwritten rule led me to fill out the self-certification as accurately as I possibly could and still have my YouTube social credit score reduced. Yes, that's actually a thing which exists for people who monetize, by the way. You certify your own videos, and your trust value, or social credit as I called it, goes up or down depending on how often your classification aligns with YouTube's own review. Since I had no way to certify based on an unwritten rule, my score went down. Is YouTube a dystopia or what? So yeah, animators who force mature content into their work to avoid being blacklisted will certainly be demonetized at the very least, or even age restricted or taken down at the worst. So not only are there real and practical forms of harm taking place due to YouTube's decisions, but there are also social and community implications as well. Lots of creators, myself included, usually don't incorporate mature content in videos. Yet more and more creators are feeling pressured to betray those personal principles and include content and themes they otherwise don't want to, just to avoid being labeled made for kids. And all that only to be punished or blacklisted anyway. You may have noticed that when I refer to the made for kids label, I call it a blacklist. This is because getting hit with the label effectively cuts off reach. But not getting views and not getting paid and forcing the use of swear words or violence aren't the only ways this hurts videos. We also lose very basic features even as viewers. For example, playlists are no longer possible on blacklisted videos. I guess YouTube has a bunch of creepy tracking data tied up in that or something, I don't know. You can still add made-for-kids videos to playlists by finding them elsewhere, such as in search results, then click the playlist button there. This is a pro tip a lot of people probably don't know about, but it's absurd we need to use a workaround for the simple act of adding a video to a playlist. YouTube just doesn't care. I'm not a mobile user myself, but if you are, then you're sure to have also encountered the lack of a mini player on videos that have been blacklisted. Another big feature lost is the comments section. All of it. Doesn't matter if the comments were exclusively adults, it all gets thrown out. Even videos which successfully beat the system and appeal the blacklist still have their comments permanently deleted. Speaking of appeals, they're pretty much worthless. The only way to get help is to make noise on Twitter. If you don't get enough retweets, YouTube won't care to help you. But regarding the deletion of comments, this is an egregious and unnecessary loss in my opinion. Plenty of videos use comments as a place for people to share information, to tell personal stories, to exchange ideas, and to give encouragement to the uploader or fellow viewers. The loss of comments is closely related to what I consider the absolute worst way the blacklist harms creators. This whole situation mostly affects animators, and I think we all know animation is an underappreciated medium. The ongoing fight to convince people that animation is a respectable medium extends far beyond YouTube. It's disappointing to see Google take such a regressive stance on the matter. For example, we all know a vlogger or reaction channel can spend an hour making a popular video which gets a bunch of watch time. Meanwhile, an animator might spend months or even years to craft a work of art which receives a tiny fraction of that attention. There is nothing inherently wrong with that fact, since these are different things appealing to different people for different reasons, but the fact animation is a high-effort creation being treated as worthless garbage just for kids certainly twists the knife in an already gaping wound. I have seen lots of Brony creators talk about how they're losing interest in making videos because of how YouTube is treating us. I only specify Brony creators because that's the community I'm a part of, but this extends to any animation or any cartoon community. For YouTube to cut off their viewership and relegate it to mindless babies using their parents' iPads, and also to cut off those creators from the encouraging comments which motivate them in the first place, the way this affects individuals and communities at a personal level is really quite tragic. Okay, let's talk about solutions. It's not our job to interpret the FTC's ruling against YouTube, but YouTube is incapable of competent thought, so maybe we should try to get the ball rolling ourselves. I'll link the FTC's court documents in the description if you'd like to look at them yourself. I'm not personally aware of anything which compels YouTube to handle things in the way they have. If I'm wrong and the FTC has indeed made YouTube do things in the most idiotic way possible, please let me know. I'll admit I was wrong, and I'll issue a correction to keep you all informed of the truth. I've only skimmed through these documents myself, and I certainly don't claim to be a lawyer. However, it seems like most things are behind wording like reasonable measures and reasonable efforts, rather than actually telling YouTube they had to do these specific things. My solution would be to simply give agency back to creators. Let us take up the liability for the FTC's fines by marking our own videos as we see fit. In fact, the FTC's order specifically says YouTube needs to have a system for channel owners, and I quote, to designate whether their content on the YouTube service is directed to children. Again, not a lawyer here, but for YouTube to take that designation out of our control seems contrary to what the FTC is requiring. YouTube should direct all of this misplaced effort to making sure the big channels are following the rules. You know, the channels actually called out by the FTC in the court filings, the channels that have been heavily criticized for taking advantage of kids for many, many years, long before the FTC got involved.
The more likely, inevitable it becomes that some ambitious regulator is going to come along, see what you're doing, and crack down on everybody.
The random, unrelated clips Hasbro vomits onto YouTube with downright fraudulent titles that are probably breaking YouTube's own guidelines for not being relevant to the video and is designed to get as much watch time from babies as possible is very much not in the same category as one of Minty Root's animated masterpieces, for example. The argument that kids could be watching both of these animations is no different than saying kids could be watching any video on YouTube. In addition to letting creators assume the liability of classifying our own videos, as the FTC themselves hints at, YouTube also needs to target this problem at its source, or it's only going to get worse for everyone. Right now, YouTube blacklists videos based on the perceived viewership of a given video to avoid breaking a law by tracking potential children watching said video. Think about that for a second. They're punishing people for posting videos because of something completely out of our control. If a bunch of kids dogpile a video, why not spend a modicum of effort to restrict those accounts being used by children instead of the videos they're watching? I know there is no perfect, easy way to label accounts as being children. I think requiring people to show ID in certain countries just to watch age-restricted videos is already incredibly dystopian. That's horrible. Let's not do more of that. But if you look at the way YouTube is doing things compared to the actual goals of the FTC, it does not take a genius to see things are completely backwards. Instead of punishing people who upload videos that may or may not be viewed by children, maybe send an email to suspected children accounts along the lines of, hey, your kid may be using YouTube inappropriately. You should make them a YouTube Kids account instead. Exactly how that would work is obviously too complicated to pitch in detail here, but you see what I mean, right? There's a lot of potential solutions once you approach the problem from a sensible direction. Right now, YouTube doesn't even offer a way to report obvious kids. Every other platform, Twitter, Discord, you name it, will ban anyone claiming to be a kid on site. Remember when Twitter, long before Elon by the way, tricked everyone into providing their birthdays? People were eager to celebrate a special day with animated balloons, only to discover Twitter was banning adults in their 20s who made accounts at age 12. That's how seriously they took these laws. That was seen as an overreaction, of course, and maybe it was, but it's in stark contrast to YouTube. YouTube might be the only big social media website which openly welcomes kids, contrary to this decades-old and fairly well-understood law. The FTC court documents have a lot of interesting evidence in that regard, and if you're not convinced that YouTube are the bad guys here, Just go read some of that document. Children are a huge part of YouTube. If you've never heard the term Elsagate, please go look into that one. The desperation to reach children on YouTube got to some insane levels. Kids were and still are a big business on YouTube. Things got really, really ugly in the past, and it's only going to get uglier if YouTube remains ignorant. So what can we do? Well, I encourage my fellow bronies and fellow animation enthusiasts to not give up. We might need to focus on outside websites to share, promote, and to monetize our content. We need to go out of our way to support and encourage animators and communities like ourselves. If YouTube won't let us comment on things, we need to find creators on other social media and go out of our way to share encouragement. If YouTube won't show our videos to people other than literal babies, we as viewers need to stop relying on the recommendation algorithms. I'd love to see more projects like the Top 10 Pony videos. I'd love to see a return to fandom blogs like Equestria Daily. And I'm actually very excited by the growing Fediverse of independent social media connected by open standards. That last one is basically the idea of anyone being able to run their own social network and for all of those servers to be interconnected. This topic is genuinely the first time I've ever been excited for the future of the internet. Mastodon is the big one you may have heard about thanks to all the Twitter drama, but PeerTube is a federated video platform that could possibly someday replace YouTube. If there's enough interest and resources put into it, that is. We're many, many years away from that hypothetical utopia, but hey, we can dream. If you have any thoughts or feedback about YouTube, I highly encourage you to share them with YouTube directly by clicking the feedback button. On desktop, you can find this in your account menu at the bottom of the list. If you're on mobile, tap the video settings icon, the help and feedback link in the middle, then tap the send feedback link at the bottom. In a symbolic solidarity with the countless creators who have had their comments stolen from them, I've disabled them for this video. I can only hope my other videos don't have the comments taken away, but it's really anyone's guess if or when YouTube comes for me as well. I don't plan to stop making Brony content, and I look forward to continuing to showcase other works in the Top 10 Pony videos. I certainly owe a lot to YouTube for my channel's success, but it's hard to appreciate those things knowing YouTube could take it all away at any moment for no reason at all. Shout out to all the engineers and actual humans working for YouTube who probably share a lot of these concerns. It must be really frustrating to work for YouTube and actually care, so I feel ya. Anyway, check out my website if you'd like to contact me directly for any reason, but for now, let's replace this video's comments with the feedback tool instead. Please consider checking out some of my other videos while you're here. The YouTube robots told me you need to watch my other videos before they show this one to more people. Jokes aside, have a good day and pony on.